Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and ain't the banking system fun, folks? As this article from Zero Hedge says, Morgan Stanley Wealth sells all junk bond holdings, warns of recession risk. And as the article kind of goes into, according to Morgan Stanley Wealth Management, it is too late to buy junk bonds in this market cycle, which is why one of the otherwise most bullish banks is cutting its high yield bond holdings to zero. Mike Wilson, the CIO of Morgan Stanley Wealth, writes in his 2018 outlook, as he goes into investors should prepare for at least one correction in global stocks this year. And as he also says, while the tax cuts just enacted in the US may lead to better growth in the short term, they may also bring forth the excesses we typically see before a recession, which is something credit markets figure out before equities. As a result, we recently took our remaining high yield positions to zero as we prepare for deterioration in lower quality earnings in the US, led by lower operating margins. So this gets extensive. John, can you go into this?
Was it Canadian government bonds that they sold?
Yeah.
I consider them junk bonds anyways, Josh.
Yeah, it's all junk.
No, this is quite serious. So what a big bank like Morgan Stanley is telling us is that we're looking at, something happening in 2018, which a lot of experts have been saying. They've been saying something will go down in 2018. And of course, all these junk bonds that are around, people and pension funds and everybody has been loading up on this debt because they couldn't find anything that would yield enough to provide the return that they need in order to pay out to their pensioners.
Yeah.
So, and we've been, extensively going into pensions and how underfunded they are. So this is not a good scenario for anybody.
Well, John, looking at this chart here, new highs for high yield, global junk bond total returns climb to record. And we look at this chart. What does this kind of tell us, John?
It's just telling us that there's more and more bad debt out there, and it's getting jacked up higher and higher, the interest, because it's I almost said a bad word there. It's worth junk. Yeah, that's why they're called junk.
Don't get us demonetized, or our wealth will be junk as well.
Yeah, no, it's important to state that there's a reason why the banks call it junk bonds. It's because it's extremely high risk bonds with a very high yield attached to a high percentage that they have to pay to borrow the money, because it's a huge risk to invest in them. But the problem is pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and others have piling into them to find anything of return. Meanwhile, they should have probably invested in some Bitcoin, some other cryptocurrencies, and they haven't. They've been saying, evil, like Krugman saying, evil Bitcoin.
Well, wait a second. Yeah. Well, just to make it absolutely clear, we just did an interview with David Morgan of the Morgan Report on gold and silver, etc. Well, when it comes to banks holding Bitcoin and holding gold, it's a whole other story than banks speaking out against Bitcoin, speaking out against gold. And we've seen tons of banks throughout the world are holding it while at the same time attacking it. Like Jamie Dimon, for example, he's a great example. And who even listens to Paul Krugman anymore? The guy
just sounds it's funny
when he talks about when he talks about Bitcoin. He sounds exactly like he did in the 90s when he was talking about the internet being just a trend that will go away and won't have any effect on the economy. It's absolutely nonsense. And Paul Krugman needs to climb back into that cave that he came from. He kind of reminds me of Smeagol.
The Keynesian boom.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just how many times do you have to be proven wrong before you just go away and shut up? But anyway,
this is the whole PhD paradigm. They don't understand this new thing called cryptocurrencies, right? So
decentralization. Ooh, I can't control it and manipulate it and drive it into the ground like everything else I touch.
But that's the big problem here. There's a whole bunch of debt that have been sloshing around in the world, and what's crazy with junk bonds, it's yielding even so low, a lot of them, that they're yielding, we did a video where they're yielding less than the US dollar.
Yeah.
So that should just tell us there's, in my point of view, all debt, that especially from the government, are junk. It is worth junk. It should have junk status. It should have been, it will be defaulted on, so we should get rid of all that debt in the first place. I'm just baffled that this haven't happened before, but of course it's manipulated markets.
Of course.
Yeah, and they're willing to do whatever it takes here to print a substantial amount of money all around the world. It's just unheard of how much money has come into the existence just since 2008.
Yeah.
It's tripled, as I talked about bank reserves and how much bad assets they bought on their reserves. It's just baffling.
It all comes down to the manipulation by the central banking system and the government, the two hand in hand. And as we always mention, all fiat currencies eventually revert to their intrinsic value of zero. They always have, they always will, going back to 1024 AD in China. And of course, the fundamentals are off the table due to the level of manipulation in the monetary system and the markets. So you can't put a date on it, but it's going to happen. So that's where this comes into this whole bond market. We're seeing similar trends within the bond market that we're seeing in the monetary system. This slow incremental pressure buildup that leads to this massive collapse. Absolutely. And they depend on debt, but it's kind of like live by the sword, die by the sword, and eventually it's going to happen to the banking system. It's going to go down. So is the monetary system in general, and hopefully government with it. And with that said, I mean, John, going forward, we're seeing this massive crash coming. We have a lot of solutions. What is your bottom line message here?
Well, what is the nemesis against debt and the monetary system throughout history? Well, it's gold, silver, number one, wealth insurance that protects against these bubbles when they burst and suddenly the money system becomes worthless.
Again, gold isn't meant to be an investment per se. It's
it's wealth insurance.
It's wealth insurance.
I just take gold and silver, I take it in physical form, then I put it somewhere safe. And I don't care about the ETF price that you see in the media that is way undervalued of what the physical supply is.
And now with this monetary revolution we're seeing as well with cryptocurrency, there's no doubt about it. There's that whole decentralization aspect that pulls away from the central banking system, which is a big black eye for the central banking system, which is why they're moaning and whining so much like a little girl about it, because they just got their candy taken away, and that was the power over the entire monetary system, the power over the wealth of all individuals, so-called free individuals, and they can't really extort people as well either when they have a decentralized assets or currency such as Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. There's just so many solutions, and that comes down to self-sustainability, financial responsibility. The hallmark of freedom itself. You cannot have freedom without responsibility. So of course,
and education.
Yeah, exactly. Not indoctrination from the public schools, indoctrination camps, or mainstream media. Look towards independent media. Do your own due diligence. But food, water, shelter, self-defense. You're not gathering things for the toughest guy on the block. And then, of course, gold, silver, Bitcoin, other decentralized assets, tangible assets. Stay away from the centralized system. Gold and silver will go up once the bankers stop holding that beach ball underwater, which is gaining so much pressure, ready to bounce due to crazy amounts of ETFs.
Yeah, and as David Morgan just said in a report, commodities are coming back because commodities are always, there's things that we need, as he says, and I totally agree. It's everything that we need in our world is commodities, this computer, this mic, everything in our studio here is a real commodity. It's not worthless fiat paper money that is just getting printed numbers on it that are way overvalued of what the true intrinsic value of that note
Though
is. Right?
polymer banknotes from Canada do look pretty nice on the wall, and I mean, if you lose one of
we can make a collage at one point, Josh, with these notes. I really look forward to it because they're quite beautiful compared to a lot of the other currencies.
And if you lose one of your monopoly money currencies when you're playing a board game, hey, you can just replace it with a worthless $5 Canadian bill or something like that. The point is, all of these systems are going down. It's just colorful paper at this point. That's just debt, and it's time to get rid of it.
Why don't we just replace our monetary system with monopoly money? There's a lot of monopoly money printed out there. Why don't we just use that instead of the current system?
Be prepared. It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. I mean, man, I barely have any fiat in my wallet these days because it's pointless. You use it for what you need. Get rid of otherwise just put it into something that has some value long term, ensure your wealth, and also just put your money where your mouth is. A lot of people talk about the system being bad but don't do anything about it. It's time that we become the change we wish to see in the world, because there's too many people with knowledge but not action, and that just begets the downfall just as much as no knowledge. So
you got to take action. It's so important. It's the reason why me and Josh sits there is we decided to take action upon our knowledge, and I think as many of you as possible needs to go out there and take action. You don't need to create a YouTube channel, but go out and educate everybody around you. because the better
Be that annoying guy at the party.
During the collapse, the less people that know about this, the worse we are off. So the better it would be is if you go out there and tell this to everybody around you and make them understand, make them read different books and so on. Some of my books,
Canada, the greatest economy in the world, The End of Freedom, How Our Monetary System Enslaves Us, up on Amazon.com, by the way.
Yeah, it's important to read these books and so many other great books of other authors that we highly suggest you could read it. Actually, in my book, I make a huge list of the books that I recommend. So highly suggest you do that and start, getting the word out here, because if we don't, we're going to be in a terrible position when things happen and we can't really change stuff. And the evil side, the dark side, is going to just continue on with this whole system over and over again until, people eventually wake up.
Yeah, be the change you wish to see or embrace your slavery. It's up to you. You have an individual choice. This is one thing that you do have an individual choice over in life, as government restricts free will almost entirely, and the monetary system enslaves us, as John's book points out. So it does come down to you, the individual, deciding, are you going to break free from the chains that so many revere, or are you going to continue to revere those chains like an animal on a farm eating the grass, saying everything's good because I got grass to eat, before you're led off by the chain to the slaughter? It's up to you, folks. So do everything you can to educate yourself. Stay away from the public school indoctrination system. Stay away from the mainstream media. Learn for yourself. Educate yourself with every side of the argument. Read books from left, right, center, outside of that whole paradigm in general, and just do whatever you can, because knowledge is power, no matter how cheesy that statement is. And it all comes down to getting yourself ready for the future, because what is a point of life if you don't take any action over your own freedom, your own free will, your own ability to prosper? Then what's it all worth? It comes down to you, folks. You can do it yourself. Just learn, educate yourself, apply the positive changes to the negative situations that we're all put under. So until next time, thanks for watching, everyone. Check the links below. This is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth.
Be the change.
Like what you see here at WAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so overwhelmingly demonetized and censored by YouTube, as the Anti-Defamation League comes in and flags all of our content as hate speech. You can also find me at Josh Sigurdson at steemit.com. That's steemit.com, the future of social media, where you get paid in the upvote of your post via Steem, the cryptocurrency. You can also find our Bitcoin address in the description and the comments below, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And don't forget to come on down to Anarchapulco in Acapulco, Mexico in February, one of the best events of the year, and you can save money on your tickets by typing in promo code WAM. That's WAM. We'll leave the link below for you, and until next time, don't forget to subscribe. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.